How
How
I
I
drew
drew
this.
this. Hey, Xuan.
Hey Bobby, thanks for having me again.
Of course, it's always wonderful to talk with you about my own artwork. Ha 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 ha.
I worry.
Anyways, yeah, so today what we're doing is we're talking about this tree drawing. And how am I starting this tree drawing? I want to talk about that first. The
Mm,
initial sketches of an idea, right? And you can see that I'm using a coal erase pencil. I'm not using a pen yet because that way I can have the freedom of uh, erasing things. Even though I'm not actually erasing anything, I don't think I actually do, but at least I had that freedom. The other thing about this is that I have these very light marks, which you can do with a pen, but it's very difficult.
mm,
Now, the detail that I'm putting into this drawing, if it's in percentages, I would say that I'm going for more like 60% of the detail that I want to have in the final illustration, or maybe more like 40%. It's just the big ideas. Where are the main shadows going to be? Where is uh, the main kind of parts to this image going to be? You have a branch there. You don't really have details of the leaves, but you have suggestions of the leaves.
mm. Like all the stuff you want to figure out at the pencil stage and establishing stage.
Yes, and a lot of suggestive stuff, right? When you actually look at the marks that I'm making, they're not very detailed at all. There's very
Mm,
few parts that are absolutely specific. I would say the specific parts would be where those eyes are, but even the details of the eyes are not really there. And the shadow that the branch nose casts onto the face, that's also very specific. But
mm,
a lot of times that's all you really need is like one initial sketch or a few initial sketches, quick ones, to be able to answer questions that you'll need to have answered in your head, at least for the final illustration.
mm. And did you do like a bunch of small pencil sketches before? Like doing this on the final paper with like the final pencil sketch? Oh, this is like straight up the first time you're doing this sketch with this idea.
Usually, I would have very, very small sketches that are close by that I'm kind of referring to on the side. But
Mm,
in this case, this was actually a redo of an older idea that I liked, and I just wanted to make kind of like the new version of it.
mm.
The other thing I want to mention here is those leaves. You can see the very first leaves that I did that are closest to the little creature. They're a lot more defined than those other leaves, the bunches of leaves just to the left of them. You know, there's something to be said about defining stuff versus suggesting stuff. When you only have the feeling of something, a lot of times that is actually nicer than defining everything.
That is so true. That is actually so like less is more, right? And the brain of the audience actually finishes the work itself.
Yes, like hair, for example,
Mm,
right? A lot of beginners, what we do is we define every stinking piece of hair.
yeah.
But it's actually more like you want to create the suggestion of hair and then maybe some accents where you're defining parts of the hair, but not all of it because too much detail, that's not how we take in things,
Mm,
right? We focus in on things. And then all the other stuff kind of becomes our peripheral vision or something like that. We're not actually concentrating on the details of it.
the brain actually pieces it all together as a whole and completes the image itself.
And it feels so much more natural that way, as you know, as most artists know. So how we deal with it with art, for those of you watching, is that we're very selective with the stuff that we will detail. And to kind of give that same sense as when you're looking at anything, you focus in, and that focused part is where you detail. Everything else, make it more suggestive. And it's so much nicer to look at and to absorb.
Mm. I feel like that kind of applies in the same way with edges and suggesting edges or leaving out
Yeah.
edges and the brain completes it. And I'm just wondering how you do it with a pen so well, because I can see like to me it's like really detailed, but I'm very sure like you must be thinking so hard about what you're doing at that moment. Like you must be so focused.
I'm glad you feel like I'm really, really thinking hard. That's a good one. I think I am, but as well, especially for the suggestive stuff, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not concentrating as hard on the areas that I'm actually sketching. So that's a really good kind of thing to bring up because now that I think about it, I'm actually concentrating on the general area, surrounding area, as much as that particular part that I'm sketching because whatever I'm sketching will not show its true effects until you take into account every other mark that's around that part that I'm sketching, right?
Mm-mm, the relation.
Yes, so I kind of focus more on the whole entire area and let my pen go, and I'm looking to suggest things rather than detail them out.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Do you do that?
I know what you mean, but I do mostly digital, like Bobby. So to see this in pen is so unforgiving for me. So I'm just wondering, wow, you must be like, on like 100% focus mode, because that's what I would be if I'm doing this.
I'm not really paying attention to the permanence of the ink of the
Mm,
medium, but instead because I'm suggesting, because I'm keeping things loose, it actually gives way for messing things up. You don't know
mm,
where I mess things up. I don't know where I mess things up because it's not super detailed, which actually makes me feel like the leaves that I don't like the most are the ones that I started off with that are super defined because they
right.
don't actually mix in with everything else in this tree.
Like what you're talking about the relation, right? It looks too defined compared to the rest of the whole picture.
Yes, yes.
Mm,
It's nitpicking. Overall, I did like this drawing in the end, but
mm,
that would be something that I would be more aware of if I was to do this over again. You notice the creature, right? It doesn't even have a mouth. It just has two eyes and like a suggestion of hind feet, but you can't
mm,
even see the feet. You just see the two little arms and that's it. Now, the other interesting thing that I picked up on as I was drawing this was to show the three-dimensional form of the tree. So I'm using the texture, shading the tree, so it's not
mm,
just straight shading a
mm.
smooth object. I kind of had to keep in mind multiple
The
things
form.
as I was shading it.
That's actually what I was going to ask you. Like when you cross hatch like that, like definitely also because it's to suggest the texture of the tree, like you said, like the bark. But also like I was wondering how do you decide which direction the crosshatch should go? And then now you're saying it's because of the form and the way it wraps around or how the branches turns away or towards the light.
Yeah, I think what we want to look for is the feeling of kind of like sculpting with your pen.
Mm, mm,
And I remember, uh, when I was a student and I finally started to understand that. Before that, it was like all perspective. I was making the same kind of marks, but in my head, I'm drawing on a piece of paper. And then there was one day where I was like, okay, yeah, I can really kind of picture that three-dimensional form. And now I'm drawing lines going on top of the surface of that form. And it's just that little bit of a change in thinking. And then I felt like, wow, okay, yeah, now I'm sculpting with this drawing that I'm doing. And that's what we're looking for like really good structure.
mm. Like, I was just wondering, Bobby, like, I don't know if it's too technical, but I was thinking, like, when you're already drawing this, you're already deciding where is the darkest dark and where, like, I know in your pencil you can already define that, but you don't like go through one pass and then cross hatch another pass when you are drawing the places that you think should have shadows. You immediately just go dark, like you know.
I love these technical questions. Say I feel like this part should be dark. That
Mm,
should be one of the darkest parts of my image. I won't
mm,
go super, super dark, 100% of the tone that I want yet. I'll go more like 70, maybe 80%, and lay down everything else and then go back over top. But I'm not trying to build it up from like the lightest tone and then you do everywhere. And then the second lightest tone, and then you do a section of that light tone that you did before,
mm,
kind of breaking it up into darker tones and then darker tones after that. No, I go
mm,
straight to like those dark tones, yes, but I
mm,
don't lay them down as dark as I want just yet. I
mm,
want to save that for the end. Same thing with highlights. If I'm painting, I will save the highlights for the very end. To me, it's kind of like if I can make the image really sing, really work without getting into those extreme values yet, when I get into those extreme values, then it'll really pop and it'll be like the cherry on top.
mm.
So there you go. There's the drawing of a tree head with a little creature on its nose branch. Hope everybody liked it.